I was standing in the middle of a crowded grocery store in Ohio, staring at a box of cereal, when I realized I was completely empty inside. Not hungry, empty. I had the job, the apartment, the friends, and the freedom everyone said I should want. But looking at those colorful loops on the shelf, I felt like a ghost haunting my own life. Is this it? Is this all we are? Just consumers until we die? That night, I couldn't sleep. I started scrolling through my phone, just trying to drown out the silence. I fell down a rabbit hole of travel videos. One video caught my eye. It wasn't about beaches or luxury hotels. It was just the sound of the Adhan, the call to prayer, echoing over a city at sunset. I didn't know what the words meant. I didn't even know what language it was at first. But when that voice hit a certain note, my chest tightened. It was a physical reaction. For the first time in months, I felt something. A pull. I closed the app, told myself I was just tired, and went to work the next day. But the sound stayed with me. It was like a melody stuck in my head. But instead of annoying me, it calmed me down whenever the stress of the office got too loud. A week later, I did something that felt ridiculous. I walked into a bookstore and bought a copy of the Quran. I hid it under a stack of fashion magazines at the checkout counter because I was embarrassed. I grew up thinking Islam was something foreign, something scary, something that definitely wasn't for a girl like me who loved loud music and ripped jeans. I took it home and threw it on my nightstand. It sat there for 3 days. Finally, on a Tuesday night after a particularly bad breakup, I opened it. I didn't start at the beginning, I just let it fall open. My eyes landed on a verse. Verily, with hardship comes ease. I froze. It was such a simple sentence. But in that moment, it felt like the book was reading me, not the other way around. How did it know I was struggling? I kept reading. I expected to find anger or strict rules. Instead, I found stories about patience, about mercy, about a God who was closer to me than my own jugular vein. That concept blew my mind. God wasn't some distant old man in the clouds judging me. He was right here, aware of every tear I hadn't let fall. But here is where it gets crazy. I wasn't ready to convert. No way. I was still investigating. I decided to challenge this faith. I thought, if this is real, show me. I started going to a local coffee shop near a university. I noticed a girl there who wore a hijab. She always looked so peaceful, sipping her latte and studying. One day, I worked up the courage to walk over. My heart was pounding. I thought she'd tell me to get lost. I asked her, "Doesn't that thing on your head make you hot?" She looked up, smiled, the warmest smile I'd ever seen, and said, "Sometimes. But knowing why I wear it makes me cool." We both laughed. Her name was Aisha. We sat and talked for 3 hours. She didn't preach to me. She didn't try to convert me. She just answered my questions. She invited me to her home for dinner during Ramadan. I was terrified. I thought I'd say the wrong thing or offend someone. But when I walked in, it was chaos in the best way. Kids running around, the smell of spices I couldn't name filling the air, and laughter, so much laughter. When it was time to break the fast, they handed me a date. I took a bite, and then everyone went to pray. I stood at the back of the room watching them line up, shoulders touching, rich, poor, black, white. It didn't matter. They moved as one body, foreheads to the ground, total submission. In a world where everyone is fighting to be the most important person in the room, watching these people voluntarily lower themselves to the ground was the most powerful thing I had ever seen. I felt that emptiness in my chest again, but this time I knew what was missing. I went home that night and tried to pray. I didn't know the words. I just put my forehead on my carpet and whispered, "If you're there, guide me, because I'm lost." The next morning, I woke up and everything looked different. The sky seemed bluer. The birds sounded louder. It was like a filter had been removed from my eyes. But the fear held me back. What would my parents say? What about my friends? Would I lose everyone? The turning point happened 2 weeks later. I was driving and a car ran a red light, missing my bumper by inches. I slammed on the brakes, shaking. In that split second of near death, the first word that came out of my mouth wasn't a curse word. It was Allah. I sat in my car on the side of the road, gripping the steering wheel, and I started to cry. My soul knew the truth before my brain did. I realized that if I died right then, my biggest regret wouldn't be missing a party or a promotion. It would be denying the truth that was screaming in my heart. I drove straight to Aisha's house. I didn't even call. I banged on her door. She opened it, looked at my tear-streaked face, and she just knew. She pulled me into a hug, and right there on her front porch, amidst the suburban quiet, I said the shahada, ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulallah. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. It felt like 1,000 pounds of bricks fell off my shoulders. I wasn't an empty vessel in a grocery store anymore. I was found. I was home. It hasn't been easy. I lost some friends. My family is still confused. But every time I put my forehead on the ground, I remember that moment in the bookstore. That verse and that feeling of peace. I traded the world for my soul, and I have never made a better deal.